Well, welcome to Friday's reflection on this designated day of prayer for the whole world to join in with. And it may be that you want to link up with the official prayer resources that are based on the Kingdom of Vanuatu in the middle of the Pacific. Have a look. Country very different from our own, that probably many of us have not heard of or know much about. It's about bringing the whole world together to think what it is that we want to pray for. And that's really the question that I pose you. What is it that you're praying for? What is it that your hopes are for at this point? And I say that specifically because the reading set for today is Isaiah 65, the end part of that, which is entitled A New Heaven and a New Earth. And it's an Isaiah version of what we get right at the end of the Bible in Revelation 21, I think it is, 21, 22. The very last chapter of the Bible. But Isaiah's is a curious piece because it has some wonderful notions of living long and prospering, a bit like the Star Trek theme. That's what Mr. Spock used to say, isn't it? Live long and prosper. It has all those imageries in it, but then it has some strange bits about the lion eating grass alongside the oxen, which seems impossible to me, that a carnivore animal would become a herbivore all of a sudden. It has the unlikely scenario of the wolf and the lamb lying down together rather than the wolf ripping the lamb's throat out, which is what would normally happen. So I don't know what to do with this reading from Isaiah 65 today. And I think particularly I want to come back to that question of what are your hopes? What are you longing for? Is it some utopia that seems impossible? Even a return to normal after lockdown, which also seems impossible because everything has changed in this last year or so. Everybody's different. I'm different. You're different. People are different. Our church situation is different. Our communities are different. And so, we have a strange and uncertain and unknown future. What is it that we are hoping for? Is it some wonderful paradise that we hope might be our reality? It seems difficult for us to imagine what that might be like. So what do we make of our situation in the light of that picture of everything being rosy? As you may know, because I wrote about it in the bulletin this week, I've been on retreat for 2 days. I've been not gone anywhere, I've just been at home, but been with the superintendents of the district talking about a corporate trauma. It's really based on the pandemic, I suppose, but looking at more general wisdom that comes from other traumas that communities have experienced over the decades and centuries, really. And one particular expert, a man called Brueggemann, talks about the need to minister in those times of calamity in 3 specific ways. You've got to deal with the harsh reality. You've got to acknowledge and respect and try to minister to those who are grieving the pain of loss. But you've also got to give grounds for hope. So again, it brings me back to this question: what is it that is our hope right now? And we looked at the analysis from those who are experts, as it were, in what's been happening in what's called traumatology with regard to the pandemic. There was those who are experts on looking at trauma and what that means for the communities. And it was astonishing to see the way in which their analysis actually held true to our experience of the pandemic. It said at first you go through a period of heroic activity where people are looking after one another, thinking of the vulnerable, making community hubs where food could be gathered together and given to those who cannot get out. And we did all of that, didn't we? And then there's a period of disillusionment where instead of going up from the calamity, we start to go down from it. A time of despondency. And the longer that goes on, and it seems to have gone on a long time, doesn't it, the deeper that gets. And there's a few sort of humps and hollows along the way because we do get upsurges, but then the trend continues. Now, the person leading the retreat said, who was the analyst in all this, that we're now coming through into a time of restoration again. And again, there are humps and hollows along the way where we have hopes and then they get dashed a bit and we get a bit disillusioned again. But this is the point that I want to leave with you. The end point of this whole process, what we're aiming for and what we think is realistic in our hopefulness, is what this expert called wiser living. In other words, we will have learnt things from all of this, and thus we will be better equipped to cope with whatever the future throws at us. Wiser living. So I encourage you on this World Day of Prayer to think about what you're praying for, what your hopes are for the future, and what wiser living for all of us and for yourself might look like. And may God bless us in that adventure.